A lot of times folks don't really realize it, but the way that the South moves is what happens with the rest of the country. And so I feel like with Georgia specifically, if we create change here in Georgia, that change is going to have a ripple effect across the country. I'm State Representative Renitta Shannon, and for the last 6 years, I've been serving in the Georgia House of Representatives. We need a lieutenant governor who's going to fight for our collective future, and that's me.
Georgia is one of 17 states where the lieutenant governor is not elected on a slate with the governor. This gives Georgians an opportunity to elect our own lieutenant governor. Can you share with us your priorities and how you plan to work with the governor to execute on a platform that serves the many and not the few?
In the last 6 years serving in the State House, I have fought for many of the policies that I would like to advance as lieutenant governor. I led the successful fight to expand Medicaid for those who have just given birth, because we know that access to health care is life-saving. I have fought to protect voting rights because every single Georgian deserves equal access to the ballot. I've fought to end mass incarceration. I've also fought to make sure that workers are paid a livable wage, because I know that workers are the majority, and it's long past time that policy reflected that. So as lieutenant governor, you want to make sure that you're going to have somebody who knows policy inside and out. And my time as a community organizer has taught me what are the right solutions for Georgians.
The fall of Roe is imminent, and Georgians are likely to lose abortion access. In addition to prohibiting abortion, many states criminalize pregnant people and abortion providers. What will you do to protect and expand abortion access in Georgia and prevent the criminalization of pregnant people?
This is really where my background in community organizing, as well as being known as the bill reader in the House currently, comes into play. Roe is not just about protecting just the right to have an abortion. There are many policies over the last decade that have really worked to chip away at reproductive freedom. And unless you know the issues, you can't fight against them. I would make sure that we pass policy and legislation that would make sure that everyone enjoys the right to reproductive freedom, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and regardless of their ability to pay.
How will you protect and expand Georgians' right to vote?
The entire time that I've been elected, I've been having to fight voter suppression bills. What I would do is make sure that we reverse all of the policies that are right now chipping away at people's access to the ballots.
This year, Georgia enacted new district lines through a coordinated plan by the GOP to systemically water down the political strength of Black Georgians. Now, Black Georgians will have fewer opportunities to address the pressing needs in our communities around issues like criminal justice, healthcare, education, and fair elections, just to name a few. How will you make sure that Black voters have a seat at the table when it comes to decision making?
What I would do is push for maps that actually reflect the current representation of the state, which means making sure that Black and brown voters enjoy the same power as white people do when it comes to voting. The other thing that I would do is, again, make sure that we are not creating policy that is suppressing the vote, because it's one thing to have fair maps and it's one thing to draw districts in a way that reflect the population, but the other part of that is making sure that you're not advancing voter suppression and that you really are making it that everyone has equal access to the ballot.
What will you do to promote public safety of all Georgians, especially Black, brown, and poor Georgians who are most often over-policed and over-criminalized?
We need to put resources behind dealing with the main drivers of poverty, which are mental illness, addiction issues, and folks being made to live in poverty. So what we need to do is make sure that workers are being paid a livable wage, and that we have affordable housing in this state. We need to make sure that if someone has an addiction issue, there are resources to help them deal with those addiction issues. We're just using incarceration as a big hammer to solve all of our problems, and it's not solving our problems. In addition, we really need to take a look at police accountability in Georgia. Far too many times I've had to stand with families who have lost a relative due to police officers coming in and just being really aggressive in Black and brown communities. And that is something that just cannot easily be solved by training, because what we know is officers have the same training no matter what neighborhood they go to, but we're only seeing violence in certain areas in a disproportionate amount. So it's not about the training, it is about the accountability.
Can you talk a little bit about your background and how it shaped your political career?
My mom was a nurse and my dad was a preacher and also a community organizer before they had a fancy word for what he was doing. I always admired my dad's work, but I never really understood why he felt it was so important to actually be working with the community to organize around the issues that we cared about until I was 12 years old. That's when I saw the televised national beating of a black man, Rodney King, by 5 white police officers, and then I saw the courts acquit them. And what that taught me was exactly why it was so important to be invested in working with the community and why community organizing was so important. But overall, it also taught me that justice doesn't just come to communities equally. Some communities have to fight for it.